Okay, whoa. We'll go ahead and get started. Thank you all for coming. We have a decent crowd here in the room, and of course, I see the WebEx screen in the back, and we have a larger, maybe a few more people there than here. And we will try to keep track of any questions that come up in the chat when we get to that point in the talk. Anyways, I am pleased to welcome my longtime good friend and colleague, Dr. Susan Fenton, from the University of Texas Health Science Center at Houston. Did I get that right? Okay. Which actually, I actually just learned, like OHSU is a health science, a public health science only campus. And they have a very impressive program and commitment to informatics there, because they have a school of biomedical informatics with a dean and vice deans. I'll get to that in a moment. And they, you know, we think things about Texas, but Texas impressively supports higher education, much more so than Oregon, I would say. Anyways, so Susan and I are kindred spirits in informatics education. I think we've both been very interested in that topic, and so we've been, you know, we've had conversations about it way back when, and I'm always interested to see what's going on there. And she and I are involved in some national efforts, and you were actually just appointed to the CAHIM board of directors. So, and our program is also CAHIM accredited, our master's program. Anyways, I won't take up a whole lot more time, but I will just mention, and here I might need to, so Susan is Vice Dean for Education in the McWilliams School of Biomedical Informatics at UT Houston. And she's a professor there as well, and pretty much runs the educational programs. She has a PhD in health services research from Texas A&M University, an MBA from University of Houston, and actually got her start in health information management, HIM, at the University of Texas Medical Branch. So a long Texas lineage here. Anyways, I'm very interested to hear, because we've had conversations here as well about AI in education, and so we'll hear what she has to say and tell us. So thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Bill. I'm so pleased to be here. I love Portland, Oregon, not the least of which because my son took a position with Intel and moved here when he graduated with his degree in chemical engineering a few years ago. So he works in chip development over in Hillsboro. So, but very pleased to be here, and I'm going to start with our AI assessment in an academic medical center. I hope that I have some good information to share, and then I'm going to move to my thoughts about incorporating it into education. So background for this. So we at UTHealth Houston, in collaboration with our central IT, not just our school, started making enterprise protected AI resources available. Copilot, HIPAA, FERPA protected, OpenAI, ChatGPT protected, meaning not going back to the model, right? So we have an instance. All of these cost money for us out of our own budgets. So $360 a year is what we're charged. But when these started being made available, I went to both IT and to human resources and said, what are we doing to train people? And so we've just launched a 6-month strategic initiative through the university. Because of that, I will chair the education subcommittee, but we did form a university-wide AI council and a work group on AI for teaching and learning, and I chair that work group. So we also brought in and did some prompt engineering training. We worked with Microsoft to have some co-pilot training, but quickly learned we needed to know more about what people needed. So we created this work group and immediately said, we need to do a needs assessment survey, especially for our faculty and students. We need to know where they're coming from, what their levels are, what are they using AI for? Are they using it? HR, which had helped us put on some of those others, said, we want to do this for all the staff. We want to kind of get a handle on this. So we created a draft survey. It went through many reviews, many arguments about were we going to do it by role? Were we going to do it by unit? What were we going to do? How were we going to organize it? All of those things. What we're going to ask of researchers versus other faculty versus staff versus clinicians versus students. So yes, we did distribute it on January 28th anonymously. We did emails. We had QR codes. We put it on the monitors all around campus. Please, please, please fill out this AI needs assessment that we're doing across the university. So really our only stakeholders that we didn't touch, and this was a deliberate decision on our part, were our patients. All right, because if we do that, it has to be done separately. It closed on February 24th. So the data that I'm going to share with you is all pretty new. We're in fact still analyzing it. And yeah, so just bear that in mind. We are planning to publish this. We have a group that's working on a publication. Hasn't been done yet. So responses. It took people an average of 8 minutes to fill out our survey, so not too long. That wasn't bad. We did have over 1,300 people respond. That was approximately 10% of what we estimated as our 13,300 faculty, staff, and students we have on campus, which I actually was very pleased with. 1,300 is a pretty good number. And then you can see there the number that we got from each of the roles. We ultimately decided to divide it by role and the numbers that we had from each of those. Okay. This is also, we have 7 different schools. This is response by schools. So MMS is our McGovern Medical School. CSON is our School of Nursing. You see we're 3rd. That's the McGovern School of Biomedical Informatics. SBHS is our School of Behavioral Health Sciences, which they are just getting started. So they will enroll their first master's students this coming fall. So not surprising, we only had 19 responses from them. School of Dentistry and our School of Public Health. And then other, which was interesting, is people who align themselves more with like Memorial Hermann, which is our largest clinical partner, or the Harris Health System, which is also one of our clinical partners. They got wind of it. They have a UTH email. They were able to log on and respond. So that's what the other is. So what did we ask them? We tried to get their perceptions around AI. And these are just some selected statements we asked them about. This is not everything. We asked them whether or not they feel pressured to include new technology in their roles. And you can see actually identical percentages between faculty and staff, which I just found fascinating. And I also found it fascinating that our students and trainees felt more pressured, haven't run any statistical significance, don't know, but you know, more pressured than our faculty and staff. And I don't know that if that's because they're already in that learning mode and they feel pressured from a bunch of different directions or what. So more than 90% believe the use of AI in their role is inevitable. It's going to happen, whether it's today, tomorrow, or a year in the future. Yep, it's inevitable. We then asked about perceptions for unfair advantage. Again, these are some interesting findings. So when faculty responded to, do you believe the use of AI use by faculty is an unfair advantage, about 16% said yes. They agree or strongly agreed. Nearly 20% of students did, right? Totally fascinating. Then when we asked about the use of AI by students as an unfair advantage, the faculty saying we agree or strongly agree doubled. And I haven't yet run that. Are those the same people or not? Because I think that would be fascinating to look at. But it also increased from our students, nearly 25% saying that for students. And I'll just take this opportunity to say here, in the discussions that we've had in our academic council with all of our academic deans, and in the work group that we have, and even in our AI advisory council that we have, across leadership at the university, we're pretty clear that we have to figure out how to do this. We have to figure out how to do this so that whoever ends their training with us, whether that's we're graduating with a degree or we're moving out of a residency or a fellowship or whatever, they're prepared to go out and use this technology effectively and responsibly. So that's kind of our approach to this. So we're not really in the, but these are interesting findings. And then of course you see the use by AI staff. Look at the legal copyright implications of using AI tools. Faculty are like, no, we don't fully understand this. Or 60% of us were like, no, we don't really fully understand this, and you need to help us understand this. More staff feel confident, but even more students do. Yeah, right. And one of the things that I've tried to be really clear with our students at the School of Biomedical Informatics is, if you're not using one of the protected versions that we've provided to you, if you put anything related to intellectual property you might have into it, it is gone forever and ever. You will never get it back. Our technology transfer people are very, very clear on that. So we'll talk about what we've done in the School of Biomedical Informatics and what we're working with for the rest of the institution as well for that, because I don't know that students and trainees think about it from that perspective. They know HIPAA, right? And may or may not pay attention to it. I went to a medical school curriculum retreat, and they were pretty clear that they are, the students who were in that retreat were really clear they're using it when they're in clinicals. They're using it to help them. So, okay. Yeah, it's totally happening. Yeah, but anyway, so again. Yeah. So we asked people about the most common AI tools they used, and we had a very long list, and they could select everything that they used. We even had other where they could tell us, because we were like, maybe there's something out there that a lot of people are using that we don't know about. Obviously, ChatGPT led it. Grammarly, second, not surprising. Our university, we have a license for Grammarly for the entire campus. So it's not surprising people would say they're using Grammarly. And then Copilot. So you see the things that we've got, people are using Gemini running a distant fourth. But almost a quarter of the people said none. They're not doing it yet, which I actually appreciate them responding to this if they're not doing it. Okay, so very happy about that. We haven't had a lot of time to do a real deep dive into those people and their perceptions yet. So we're trying to get all of those crosstabs together. We did also ask them, what are you using it for? All right. This is it was pretty standard across the roles. So that's why I haven't broken this out for you. Most people, 83% writing communications. I'm writing letters, I'm writing emails, I'm doing that kind of thing with it. 65% writing documents, again, across all roles. Summarizing articles was mostly faculty and students. There were some research staff who included that. You can see designing presentations, finding references. I combined summarizing meetings and classes because when you went down the faculty and staff, it was summarizing meetings. When you went down students and trainees, it was summarizing classes or training sessions. So I combined those together, and then creating images. So, but it was interesting that it's all very common right now. There are some other, I'm going to keep talking about this. So we asked, what are your concerns of AI tool use by faculty? This is the response from faculty. So the over-reliance and misuse, and we are sort of spinning up more AI training for everyone, faculty, staff, and students, and trying to organize it by role so that people understand how to use it appropriately. One of the things we're really seeing in our School of Medicine, in the clinical schools, is that we have some faculty there who are huge proponents and they're gung-ho and they're going for it. And then we have everybody else who's like, huh? All right. And so we're having to figure out how do we help them understand what it can and can't do and how to use it and all of that. Of course, the ethical and legal concerns, the impact on education and learning, especially about concerns for critical thinking. Although, I'm going to say, have we ever seen this before? With like calculators maybe? Okay. So I'll talk about this when I talk about the teaching. For me, I came to the realization it's going to change everything. And so we have to, I came from industry into academia, and that was a huge leap. And now I'm having to make at least the same leap to teaching with AI. So, but more resources are needed. Uniformity is needed in access to the AI tools, which I think this is why the university is now spinning up this strategic planning, and how do we do this, and how do we integrate it, and how do we make sure people have what they need so that we can achieve that goal of not only our faculty and staff being prepared, but our trainees and students being prepared as they go out into the workforce today. Concerns for AI tool use by students from faculty, of course, cheating in academic integrity. Again, it changes everything. I'll talk more about that. Critical thinking, ethical, legal, and the accuracy and reliability of AI-generated information. If you're a faculty member, you've probably had that where they didn't even think to take out that this was generated by AI with whatever they copied and pasted and turned in. Okay, so it happens, right? So just making sure that they understand all of that. We did ask faculty, how could the AI tools help them work? Certainly from time saving. I know in the time that I've had accounts for both of our protected resources. I have not written a single letter from scratch. Put it in there, give me a draft. I can do it. It's much, much faster. When I have difficult emails to send, you faculty member, this student has requested you be removed from their committee, right? Copilot, please draft that email for me. Make it diplomatic, okay? Yeah. So things like that where it can really help. But also with the content creation and brainstorming. If you haven't done it yet, I love ChatGPT for, I'm working on a grant for this or a project with this, give it 2 sentences. I need 10 titles with catchy acronyms. Bada bing, bada boom. And I can either edit or choose or whatever I want to do from there, but it would have taken me hours to do that with my little brain, all right? Obviously, writing and editing, administrative and clerical tasks. I record almost all of my meetings in Teams now because it'll give me the summary. And then data analysis and research. I don't know how well it's doing that yet. We did ask concerns of AI tool use by staff from staff. A lot of this is the same except for that middle one, or that third one, the impact on jobs and roles. So they were really the people who talked about what's going to happen to our jobs. You know, are the humans still going to be needed? Are there going to be increased expectations for productivity? And the question I always ask is, who here, who reduced the number of people they have when EHRs became widely spread? It just changed. That's all it did, okay? And I have, for all of my staff in the Office of Academic Affairs, I've gotten all of them Copilot and said, if you think you need ChatGPT, come talk to me. But they've all got the protected Copilot now. And I had one staff member who was like, I'm scared of it. Folks, she's 40 years old. I said, if you don't learn this, you won't be able to get a job. I just said, this is the way it is. This is the future, okay? If you were my age, you might get away with it. But at your age, you will not if you intend to keep working. You're going to have to learn how to work with this technology. So, because it's going to change how you do jobs. We asked students how AI tools can help them. Efficiency and time management, especially around the documentation. I'm guessing it was our students who said coding, because now you can have it do it for you and just correct it. But maybe better management of workload. You know, for some of our people who are bad planners, it might be able to help them. Here's everything I need to do within the next however long. Give me a plan. I mean, it helped me plan a trip to Scotland I'm taking in May. All right. So, but the learning and understanding, especially for things that are complex, writing, again, research data analysis, they were concerned that all did not have a base level of access. And ethical and legal, they need clear guidelines and policies. They are reading the same stories we are about people who get dismissed from programs or whatever because supposedly they used it incorrectly. We also asked, okay, if we're going to do this big training, what kind of format courses do you want? And I'm sorry, this is probably hard to read for you, but you'll see by far most people want hybrid. They want some sort of online and in person. Across all the roles. The weekly time commitment, by and large, an hour. I'm willing to put an hour, maybe 2 hours, more than that, very few people. The desired content, and again, hard to read, and we haven't cleaned this up, but I give you the top 5 here. So they want hands-on practical use. I will say when we partnered with Microsoft and they came in to talk about Copilot, they did a lot of talking at us and not a lot of hands-on. And that was the biggest comment that we got back, was they really want to be in there working with it. They want scenarios, all of that kind of thing. The ethics, legal, and compliance, especially in relationship to what we're doing, what our policies are in our organization. All right, so what are our policies around AI use in classrooms? What are all of that kind of stuff to make sure they're not going afoul of that? What are the laws in Texas? And right now our legislature is in session in Texas. For those who don't know, they only meet for 180 days every other year. So big time right now. But there were a ton of AI laws that were introduced, and some of them with some really interesting restrictions. They wanted the levels structured, and they want the design and delivery really clear to them. So that's something we're putting into our planning, tailored by role, and then what the limitations of the AI are. They want to know that. So we're continuing to work with the data. One of the things that we did get, so last December, we introduced in our School of Biomedical Informatics, on our servers behind our firewall, and a llama-based AI chat tool. So we could use it in our classes, so our students and our trainees could have access to something that was protected. And so we're taking that out of our technology fees. And it also can generate images. But so we have something for them that's protected, that's not $360 a year. Because they would like for us to pay for it, but for me, with my budget at a state institution, not going to happen. It's going on $250,000 if I try to do it for all of our students. So it gives you a little bit about it. This is from Xiaochen Zhang, the chair of our Health Data Science and AI department. And we put this together because when we got the survey results, all the schools went, okay, how do we get access to that? But they wanted to see some comparison. And there are some ways in which our Llama 3.2 is better than our protected ChatGPT. Like you can upload more files into the Llama than you can into our protected ChatGPT, things like that. So, as we're thinking, okay, now we're going to try to roll this out across the university, I went to Xiaochen and I said, okay, so how do we scale this? Nobody knows. Not been done before. Not because we don't know how much people are going to use it. We don't know how many concurrent users we're going to have at a time. The unknowns are more than the knowns. So, and that's really the story of this right now. There are a lot more unknowns than there are knowns. But we are working on that. Our proposed fee is $30 per user per year for each organizational unit. And we're not sure what that means yet. So we've got a planning group in IT right now. We're trying to figure it out so that we can, is it going to come from the institution? How all that's going to be done? So that's our needs assessment. I don't know if that was helpful or not. I hope it was. So I'm going to talk a little bit now about integrating AI and AI competencies into education. And notice that I separated those. They're not the same thing. They're different. So, and I already said this. I came to a realization that it changes everything. And just to put it into perspective for you, so last fall we had a faculty retreat and we were talking about this with all of our faculty in the school, not the entire university, but in SBMI. And literally one of the faculty who is deep in this area said, "You mean I'm going to have to change my course?" And I was like, yeah. Yeah, you're probably going to have to change what you teach, how you teach it, and how you assess it. Welcome to AI. But, if it's something you've been doing for a while and now all of a sudden the generative AI has hit and you're going to have to learn how to deal with it, okay? So it really does change everything. So I have this list of issues to address. And the first one is equitable access to different tools. How do you provide the tools that you need to teach with in an equitable way so that you're not disadvantaging students who can't afford the tools, that kind of thing. I mean, I'm not going to say you can ever totally level the playing field, but how do you make sure you've got some baseline level of access for everyone? What is the potential for policy impact? Again, with those concerns that the students and the faculty had around academic integrity and cheating. And I'm going to talk about what our current policy is in a little bit. But does it even extend beyond that? So looking at all of your policies and looking at the governance. An orientation and understanding to effective ethical use. Our work group is working on, again, a baseline AI orientation for all students and trainees. Okay, how often are we going to have to update that? Because it keeps changing. And then what might be a great orientation and understanding for the clinical side of the house, at least for my stakeholders, I have to go beyond that. I have to do additional with them. I can't just do the clinical user orientation, okay? When to use AI and when to evaluate AI competencies, and what are those competencies, and do we even? Okay, and I can share a little bit more about that with you. And then reviewing all the teaching and assessment and making sure that you're bringing all the faculty along for both the teaching and the assessment. And there are other things. So for example, in Texas, some of the legislation talks about high-risk AI. Okay, and of course, healthcare is in there, right, for patient safety. So that's a given. Healthcare is in there. Our legislature includes, are you using the AI to assess applications for education? Are you using the AI to assess candidates for jobs? Are you using the AI for, okay? So when you talk about assessment, it goes beyond sometimes even just the educational. And ensuring that you always have a human in the loop, that you've got those guardrails in place, because it can be useful and can be really helpful, and then it can also quickly go sideways. So I think about it in two different realms. One is very technical AI topics, and then my next slide is applied AI topics. But in the technical, how do you identify and mitigate bias in data sets? And this is something we've actually been asked to develop training on for all of our researchers, not just in the School of Biomedical Informatics. So our medical school researchers are asking for it. Our dental school researchers are asking for it. Everybody's, they see the way the wind is blowing and the way they need to go, but how do you do that? Okay, and they don't come from an informatics background. Okay. Sort of basic machine learning. We have standardized on Python for everything that's machine learning and like that for us. But where do you start that? So for example, for our methods in health data science class, that's our foundational class for that, you actually have to come in with a base level of knowledge around Python, and there is a test and you can't get into the class until you pass the test. So, because I'm not going to charge someone graduate tuition to teach them something they can go learn from Coursera or Google or edX or anything else, right? So we do that. But deep learning, building the predictive models, obviously the prompt engineering and the generative AI, and how much math are you going to require from people? So how much of this is we go back to what kind of math background do they have? So last fall, we taught our first technical foundations in generative AI class, And all things considered, it went pretty well, but there were a lot of people who thought it was a lot harder than it, quote, should be. But in talking with the faculty member, I said, you know, there are a lot of things we can do, including they have to complete an assessment before they're allowed into the class. So the other thing you can do is in the first 2 weeks when they're still allowed to add drop, you can say, if you're struggling now, you need to drop, you need to move. And so I checked with him last week and he said that worked really well. Setting up those first 2 weeks to be, it's not going to get easier. If you can't do this, you need to pick a different class. You need to go elsewhere. All right. So the applied AI topics. So now we're into implementation, governance and implementation. All right. And in the state of Texas, we have a consortium. We recently did an employer survey, and believe it or not, AI governance and implementation topped, I need somebody to build a model. Like, there are all kinds of models out there. Now I got to figure out, how do I get it into practice? How do I get it to the point of care? How do I get it to where it's actually making a difference for someone, somewhere, somehow? So first thing, you have to understand the problem. Is an AI tool even appropriate? It may not be. There may be a more simple solution. If you do a good root cause analysis, actually, it could be a workflow problem. I mean, it might not be anything with the technology at all. Something else entirely could be at the heart of that. And the reason you have to do this is because AI is not cheap. It's expensive. It literally burns resources at an incredibly high rate. So, appropriateness. That training and implementation populations, we're hearing more and more now as more healthcare facilities have implemented this. It's not just about, can I take my model and move it between organizations? Like, could we move it from UTHealth to OHSU? It's, can I take it from cardiology to neurology or to surgery or to general med or to, right? So understanding how you do that. Again, the ethics of the use, including informed consent. And I will share with you that I don't know where that is. And ethicists are still arguing over this. You know, 8 years ago, my dad had knee replacement surgery done. It was computer assisted, all right? And when the orthopedist walked out and he handed me the USB and said, everything's on here, including the scans that we did to figure out which knee replacement we were gonna insert. So later that day, I'm with my dad in the hospital. We're watching this because my dad's a retired family practitioner. So this is very interesting to him. We're watching this. And so clearly they're scraping millimeter by millimeter and the computer's doing that, right? That's not the physician. I mean, he's guiding it, but really it's the program making the decisions. And so he turns and looks at me and he says, we just used to eyeball it. Okay, so when we start talking about informed consent, I'm like, should you have to have informed consent for that? Actually, if you made informed consent a condition of that, would you be able to get the procedure done? Would you want it done if they didn't use the technology? I mean, you really, where those lines are becomes very gray. And that was AI. That was AI. So, the implementation and project management skills, those are going to be enormous. Again, very expensive, trying to be fast to fail. How do we do that? And how do we bring people along? The hardest part of change management is that person, right? How do we bring those people along? The evaluation and monitoring, because this is a different kind of technology. You don't just implement it, check that it's working well and walk away from it. You have to keep monitoring it. And then ensuring that you're in compliance with the governance and regulations. And I do know there are companies out there right now trying trying to figure out how we can get software to help organizations manage the governance and regulations. And the reason for that is because, again, in Texas right now, for those high-risk uses, the most often I've seen them want us to report to the state is quarterly. Like, what else are you going to do then? Like, when else are you going to get anything else done? Right? Semi-annually, annually. So we're going to have to be reporting for the high, what they deem as high risk. So, this is our AI policy in our syllabus. And this is something all of our faculty voted on. We came to it. So essentially it says, if you use it, you got to tell us you use it. We just want to know. Just tell us what you did. Students are responsible for the work they submit. Once you turn it in under your name, it's yours forever and ever. You own it. There is no, this is not the 21st century dog ate my homework, right? And so I had to go to AI. And we had to add the group assignments and peer review because we do have our students do that. And so some were going out to the unpaid and putting their fellow students' IP at risk. So have to think about all of that. Our process, we have a curriculum committee. We are reviewing all of our courses for AI potential. So in our legal ethical course, are we sure that we're talking about those regulations? Because again, faculty know this is going on. At some level, they know it's going on. They're not necessarily thinking, I have to take it and put it into my class. So we also want to ensure that faculty understand what is needed and maintain those orientation materials. So in summary, we are rewiring this plane as it flies. Here we go. Trying to set expectations at all levels, trying to ensure people understand what's needed of them, what AI can and can't do, with the university-wide training, knowing that for the foreseeable future, this is going to be in continual revision. It's not going to be static. We're never going to be able to say, I'm done. So with that, I think I have 15 minutes left for questions and discussion. Would love to. Thank you very much for your attention.
Did the WebEx? I tried and I got that echo thing, but
I can get on WebEx.
well, okay, or well, anyway, I read the questions here and then we'll. Karen.
Yeah, I have a question. So we've been struggling, well, so far at OHSU, I don't know if we have this protected AI yet.
Really close.
We're building it, but
We're
I
so
don't
close.
think we have it. We're not where you are. So part of what we're trying to teach our students to do is to critically think. So I guess right now this, and maybe I just need to evolve myself. I would like to see our students critically think first before they turn to AI to help them create something. So if they're working on a project, I'd rather they critically think about what are the questions I want to ask and how might I answer it. I'd rather they begin that process rather than help me plan a project to do this, to do X. I mean, it's not, I mean, do you have any guardrails for students in terms of how they use it?
So only that they have to tell us. Only that they have to tell us. And I will tell you, so we did, we have PhD qualifying exams.
Yeah.
And we ran those in December. And that was the first time we implemented that policy. We had one student who used AI, who reported that he used AI. He did the worst.
Interesting.
He did the worst because it's not to the point yet where, so we look at references, we check all the references that are provided. If you claim something, it's got to be cited. So forth, and all of that stuff, right? That's hard to do if you just ask AI to give you something. Now, if you take it and say, Grammarly, edit this for me, we don't, if Grammarly's just editing, we don't count that. And so, yeah, but yeah, he did the work. So you could clearly tell that he had taken the prompt that we had given him
Just popped it in.
and popped it in. Yeah. So the AI will get better,
Yeah.
but does that help? So,
It does some. I mean, I'm kind of just thinking, even if
yeah.
I mean, we have our students for their qualifying write a mini proposal,
Mm-hmm.
and then they have to put forward a research question, some background, set up the clinical significance, and then, a little bit of methods. But what I don't want them to do is just say, do this for me.
Well, so we have two doctoral programs now. We have the PhD, very research-based, and then we have the doctorate in health informatics, which is applied. Okay, so it's like, if you're familiar with the DMP, it's the informatics version of the DMP. Okay, and we have a lot of students who choose to go that route because they don't want to do research. They want to continue working, but they want a terminal degree. All right, and we do qualifying exams for both of those doctoral. Our DHI program is thinking about going to orals.
Interesting.
Because when you do orals, now we already have orals for the PhD. When you do orals, it's hard to hide behind the AI. So I would say maybe introduce an oral component.
We have an oral.
So, yeah,
We have both.
Part two.
yeah, we have both too. We have written and oral. But even on the written, you could clearly tell. Now, for a class that I'm teaching this semester, and they just turned in Monday, so I haven't looked at the results yet, but I did a group project. And so two different groups, gave them a scenario, gave them parts that they had to do. But this was, you must use our protected llama, okay? And part of what they had to turn in was their prompts, what they got in as a result of that, their critique of what came out of it.
Yeah.
Okay. So they did have to turn in this paper, but they also had to turn in these other pieces that went along with it. So made it a part of that. So that's the only assignment where I'm going to also be assessing their AI competencies. Does that make sense? So, yeah. And it's just like everything else, I think critical thinking is changing a little bit because you might not have to now be as creative. Like I said, I'm using it for giving me acronyms, right? I'm not creative. Like I was out of the room when that gene was being distributed. I was gone. I was missing in action. But what did it give me in thinking critically about it, if that makes sense? So yeah.
Robin, you had a question.
Yes, I'll just a comment too, though, in that what you described with that student and on the qualifying, the written part is also an example of fast to fail, right? Like how that worked in that scenario is that person tried it. Sounds like it didn't work for them. That is scaffolding towards hopefully being more sophisticated.
Yeah, that we put a time limit on when they have to do that written. They essentially, we give them prompts, they have a day. So yeah, fast to fail.
Yeah. So I'm curious in terms of the survey portion you discussed, especially sort of faculty reporting, their assessment of does student use of AI create unfair advantages, and then students' own assessment of student use. And I'm curious kind of how those questions were exactly presented to them, because
if you email me, I'll be happy. I've checked with everybody who helped me create the survey. I'll send it to you.
I would love that. I mean,
Yeah, no, just
in their heads,
yeah,
the comparator, right?
yeah, just email me.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be happy to send that.
That'd be wonderful.
Yeah.
Uh,
So,
Yeah, so yeah, we have spent a lot of time talking about policy in our educational program. It's not, are there times when a faculty can say, I don't want you to use?
they can,
Okay,
and they can do it at the assignment level.
okay.
Yeah, and in fact, I think,
It's like one that we, since we do a lot of online teaching, we have got it, yes. We have discussion.
it's in there. Yeah, it's in there.
I know that the world can in general not differentiate between generative AI output and human output, except on the discussion forums in our classes, because, the very novice informatics students post these like eloquent, I've been doing informatics for 30 years, even though they're only 25 years old.
Right.
So, there's just certain times when at least I, and then maybe others don't don't use AI for this.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And so, okay, that was my.
I ran into some of that with the class I'm teaching this spring and sent a warning and said, you can do it, but you got to tell me you're doing it. And here's why I think you did it. Come talk to me if you disagree. Nobody came and talked to me, but things got better. So warnings.
We have a question online, but you actually have your hand up
Do a
first. so-
question online, keep it even.
Okay, all right. So we have a question online about if you've got any part of this policy that digs specifically into ethics around use of AI in the classroom. And then as a sort of secondary part for using AI with the EHR and student projects, what sort of considerations you guys are putting in policies around those things? Or if this is pretty much what you've got, kind of.
So this is the one for our classes. So clear, this is only for the School of Biomedical Informatics. This is not for the entire university. All right. And so our School of Medicine has one, our School of Dentistry has one. We have a university-wide student misconduct policy, but part of what it says is it's got this real long list of everything that could be student misconduct. And it says if you don't follow the instructions, right? Yeah.
Kind of covered by that.
It's kind of covered. If you use anything to give you something that could be perceived as an advantage that was not provided, right? So, yeah. In terms of the ethics, so again, so much of this has yet to be decided. Here's what I'm going to share my opinion, and please note this is my opinion only. And it is that it would be unethical of me not to have our students learn how to use this. They have 40, 50 more years. This is their future. They will have to use this. It's kind of like I told that staff member who said she was scared of it. I said, sorry, so from an ethical perspective, I believe it would be unethical if I weren't preparing them. I don't know if that answers the question or not.
I don't know, I'll watch in the chat if it does, but I certainly appreciated that answer.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I have a responsibility to send them out as well prepared as possible. And today, that includes this technology. So,
Kate says that kind of answers it. I said she should ask a follow-up and we should move on to the next.
and she can also feel free to email me.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So one thing that was introduced during COVID was the concept of a lockdown browser. And it came back even after, I think people are considering it now with AI in education. I was wondering if you guys have thought about that, especially for online style courses, because that shut down certain websites. Barring the privacy issues with certain lockdown browsers, which we discovered later, because it has access to the base levels of your computer. So it can technically fiddle around with anything, but if that were to be fixed, I don't know, maybe you'd be.
So I can tell you what we do at our school, which is, again, it's not we're pretty decentralized. So what we do at SBMI is different than what some of the other schools use. So Canvas is our learning management system, and we purchase something called RHIA. That's a proctoring software that's integrated into Canvas that can do exactly what you're describing. Okay, so it can lock down to one screen, to all of this kind of stuff. And we do that for quizzes and things like that. But again, when you're talking about writing and when you're talking about projects and you're talking about, and I also have this sort of, so I've never been a helicopter anything. I was never accused of being a helicopter mom or a helicopter anything. I was always the mom who showed up without a camera for my poor son. All right. If somebody is going to pay me graduate tuition and then they want to try to have AI get their degree for them, other than ultimately it may reflect badly on me, okay, I mean, if you're really intent on not learning, if you're really intent on not learning, you're probably going to figure out a way. Right. No, when I taught at an undergraduate institution, I had these students who went to all of this, like they put it in their caps, right? It's okay, you can't wear caps. They would put it on the inside of the water bottles, and I'm just going, oh, if you would spend that much time studying, you would be fine, right? Okay. At some point, and especially in graduate school, people have to assume responsibility for it. So yeah, I also have that point of view. So, okay. And in the back, you had a question?
Yes, I had more of a logistical resource question. So if students are using AI tool, it appears that they're possibly working more efficiently, whatnot, but putting less hours into it. Now, for an evaluator or a teacher, do you actually end up taking more time to grade and evaluate in the era of AI? Then shouldn't there be like a switch of student to educator ratio?
So I'm going to experiment with AI helping me to assess for the first time with that one that was just submitted. Okay. I'm going to have it start helping me grade. It's not going to do everything, but I'm going to have it start helping me grade. Why wouldn't I? I'm just asking. So, yeah.
Got another online question if there's.
One more question.
Would it be possible for students to post their initial forum board posts along with a documented record of their AI-assisted thought process, which is linked through a GitHub repository, and cited using the appropriate NLM format? This way, instructors could view both the final product and the student's underlying thought process. They add, as a student, I sometimes feel there are gaps between what is conveyed in lectures and the application of that knowledge in assignments. Leveraging AI thoughtfully can help bridge those gaps, and documenting this process could provide transparency and support deeper learning while maintaining academic integrity through a clear disclaimer.
Again, it's all up for grabs. Absolutely. I would say share that with your faculty members if you're a student, right? No one knows. No one knows. That's literally the message here. There are no big answers. Other than this, unless we have that great big sunspot that fries all of the electronics, this will be a part of the future. That's the known. In what form, shape, or fashion? Unknown. So, yeah.
Great. Okay, well, thank you everyone for coming. And
thank you very much. I appreciate your attention. Yeah.
And Dr. Fenton is going to meet with the fellows, the NLM and the CI fellows in 15 minutes.
In 15 minutes, so there's a little bit of a break if you want to run to the restroom, grab food, but we'll be back here starting about 1:45. And if you'd like to eat, we've got plenty back there.
I'm probably gonna grab something, and I'm gonna.
So we'll start again 1:45.